It looks, again, at the point at which we're recording this, that maybe they're walking that back a little bit and they're not going to push that. At any rate, the New York Times apparently has a new post up via antiwar.com. U.S. intelligence shows Iranian leaders were surprised by Hamas attack. So maybe they're not going to pull that trigger yet, but maybe they are. The latest up from the official Iranian website, Khomeini.ir, with a post about Supreme Leader Imam Khomeini, and his statement on this, basically, obviously saying this is a natural result of Zionist oppression of the Palestinians, etc., etc. So he's not walking back anything like, we condemn violence on all sides or anything like that. It certainly plays into the potential for the spreading of this, and I think that's what we have to definitely be concerned about, because, hey, whatever your position on everything that's happening, the potential for this to incredibly expand very quickly on a knife edge, on a dime, is there. And I don't know where this is going, and it depends on how much they press that lever. But as the second ever episode of Corbett Report podcast was, World War III starts in Iran. Maybe it starts in Germany, according to Alexa, but at any rate, we're talking about the potential widening of this conflict to an unprecedented level. So I think everyone needs to have their eyes on this story right now.
And as you discussed, they sort of see the propaganda with these emotional stories. It's like you said, incubator babies 2023. War propaganda. Again, this is all...
My only question is this Incubator Babies 2.0 or Babies on Bayonets 2.0? Why not both?
Why not both, indeed. It took Billboard magazine a couple of days, but once they started, man, the articles started to crank out all the scary articles from, yes, Billboard magazine. Again, you'll kind of know the fix is in when every media outlet immediately has to jump on board. Special graphics at the bottom, the breathless reporting. Billboard magazine started to crank out the articles. And again, as I've said for a decade to Media Monarchy listeners, when they really started to literally attack music, Manchester, Pulse, the Bataclan, Bill Clinton and Warren Buffett going to see Chance the Rapper shows. I've been saying all your concerts belong to them. Israeli rave massacre survivors detail their escape as scores remain missing. This from Billboard, run through the archive link. And, of course, everything we say always get included in your show notes. As the Palestinian group, again, this is coming from Billboard magazine. As the Palestinian group Hamas continues to attack Israel and the country retaliates by bombing Gaza, survivors of the terrorist attack at the Parallelo Universo Supernova Sukkot Gathering Electronic Music Festival near the Gaza border are continuing what has become a grim search for hundreds of people who are still missing. So far, the Israeli search and rescue organization Zaka has reported that it found 260 dead bodies at the festival in Re'im, Israel. An unknown number of attendees have been abducted by Hamas terrorists. At least 150 Israelis were abducted on Saturday, October 7th, according to the New York Times, and some of them were taken from the rave. On Tuesday morning, October 10th, President Biden referenced the massacre during remarks on the Israeli-Hamas conflict, naming, quote, young people massacred while attending a music festival to celebrate peace among the violent incidents of the last few days. As of Sunday evening, 600 to 700 festival goers were believed to be missing in the immediate aftermath of the attack, according to artist manager Raz Yasser, who was at the event and represents several acts on the lineup. The exact number of the remaining still missing has not been verified, although two sources in Israel put this number at approximately 150, accounting for bodies that have since been recovered and identified, as well as survivors who have been identified. Though another source on the ground says it's still hard to tell how many remain missing. The Israeli offshoot of the long-standing Brazilian festival brand Parallelo Universo Supernova Sukkot Gathering was named in honor of the Jewish Sukkot holiday and hosted approximately 3,000 attendees at a rural site with two stages. You know, I think there are hundreds, possibly 1,000 kids still missing in Hawaii, but nobody cares about that story anymore. Interesting thread of threads on the artist formerly known as Twitter, Tribe of Nova and Nova Productions. So interesting, and I've not had nearly any amount of time to dive through, again, what is a thread of threads on Twitter. Too long, didn't read, if I may be so crazy as to speculate. It looks like a bunch of IDF Mossad spooks acting like cool rave kids. The dancing Israelis are now possibly the raving Israelis. In other musical massacres being covered by Billboard, Bruno Mars instructed to evacuate Israel in the terrorist attack, leaving behind band gear on Saturday. Bruno Mars, born Peter G. Hernandez, his birthday this last Sunday, October 8th. Set to become the third American artist ever to perform 2 sold-out concerts at the 70,000 capacity Hayarkon Park in Tel Aviv, Israel, following Illuminati High Priestess Madonna in 2009 and MJ 30 years ago in 93. Bruno Mars played his first show there last Wednesday with 2 Tel Aviv acts opening, running nearly 4 hours in total. Both shows were promoted by Bluestone Group, which is owned by Live Nation Israel. Mars' concert cancellation represents a symbolic setback for Israel's touring business. For more than a decade, artists announcing plans to perform in the country were faced with harsh public criticism from activists and artists like Roger Waters and Brian Eno, who urged musicians to boycott the country over what they describe as unjust treatment of Palestinians. In 2018, Lana Del Rey was booked to headline the Meteor Music Festival when Roger Waters urged her to reconsider. Her trip fell apart due to scheduling issues, ultimately. Roger Waters, a proponent of the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, and sanctions, Palestinian-led campaign to isolate Israel, also targeted Radiohead, Bon Jovi, J-Lo, and all of those unsuccessfully. Nick Cave, of course, on that list as well. New generation promoters like Tel Aviv-based Bluestone Group, which Live Nation bought in 2017, is a joint venture of several investors, including Madonna's old label, Mavericks, Guy Oseary, work to increase the potential gross artists can make playing Israel, while also helping them to navigate the anti-Israel backlash. In 2023, the country hosted a number of top-tier Western acts, including Imagine Dragons, Tiesto, Disney Aguilera, the Black Keys, and Guns N' Roses. Ballless, soulless, spiritless, corporate little B words, vax-pushing sellout shows, each and every one of them, as I've said for the last 2+ years, after bands and after concerts. James, this is now actually the longest time I've never been to a concert in my life. 2+ years and counting. I can see why now.
I would say probably a good choice on there, because if you are looking for a convenient venue for your ritualistic occultic murder or sacrifice, or a kill box, convenient high-profile media kill box for a terrorist false flag event, where better to go than the concert, right? And we've seen many examples of that over the years. And hey, I'm put in mind of the Eagles of Death concert in Paris, November 2015. Remember that one? Et cetera, et cetera. There's so many aspects to this, but one of the aspects that come to mind is, yet again, what exactly was the military strategic objective of this massive invasion force that swept in on their paragliders? Question mark. Again, there's so much that doesn't add up with this story, but again, the only possible response that you would expect from some military strategy like this is exactly what we're about to see, which seems like it's going to be the ground force invasion, full-on ethnic cleansing of 2 million people in Gaza. I don't know what else you would be expecting. So one would expect, if that was going to be your strategy, the only possible follow-up to that is escalation. And yes, if it was going to be some sort of broader regional war and you were going to bring in Iran and what have you, maybe that makes sense. But from any other military strategic objective, it makes absolutely no sense. But then again, these are all things that, as I say, I'm going to be covering with Ryan Christian on The Last American Vagabond in the coming days. But yeah, interesting. I'd just be interested in your take on what the significance of this festival is per se in terms of the larger story.
I think in situations like these, they need sympathy. And one of the easiest ways with the largest amount of people is to target some kind of concert, some kind of large gathering, some kind of event. And they did it in Las Vegas. Again, you know, we just recently had the anniversary of that. We didn't mention that one as being another concert attack. I mean, if I were a crazy conspiracy theorist, I would say they have to come after media because that's the only thing kids of my generation and younger care about or pay attention to. They don't really care about politics, but if we can scare the crap out of you about going to a concert, oh man, I thought I was going to get the super viral killer thing, now I might just get shot. I think that's why they go after it. And it feels like, would this be Gladio 3.0, 5.0? They need these sorts of events and again, this is from their own words and their own writings. We do these events to get the outcry from the public, who will then say, "You've got to do something." What were we talking about last week? More regulation, please. Seems like another classic setup. And again, this is something Mark Crispin Miller was saying. This is another situation to keep your head on screwed straight. This is another perfect example for mainstream media and so-called alternative media to freak out and go nuts and make a bunch of accusations, and I don't know how we really all shake out, James. But for our third and final story on this all Zio War dedicated episode 532, 23andMe user data targeting Ashkenazi Jews leaked online. You wondered what the third and final story would be for this. Hackers have compiled a giant apparent list of people with Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry after taking that information from genetic testing service 23andMe, which is now being shared on the internet. A database that has been shared on dark web forums and viewed by Comcast NBC News has a list of 999,999 people who allegedly have used the service. It includes their first and last name, sex, and 23andMe's evaluation of where their ancestors came from. The database is titled Ashkenazi DNA Data of Celebrities, though most of the people on it aren't famous, and it appears to have been sorted to only include people with Ashkenazi heritage. NBC News was able to verify 2 23andMe users in the breach as being authentic. They talked to 2 people and said, "Yep, that's me, that's my name, that's my ID." Crazy. This could be used by Nazis, one person who appears in the database said, hilariously, without a shred of irony. A popular option available to the company's 14 million users called DNA Relatives allows any account to search for others who may be even a distant genetic match. A single account can see the accounts of thousands of others. 23andMe now believes that the hackers simply recycled some users' passwords, it isn't clear how many, to scrape the list of people it had labeled as having Ashkenazi heritage. James, I don't know if you know people that have done this, but I've heard from some. It said we're Jewish. That's weird. Up to 40% of at-home genetic test results may be false positives. April 17, 2018. I will include the research that they are reporting on. False positive results released by direct-to-consumer genetic tests highlight the importance of clinical confirmation testing for appropriate patient care. Meanwhile, James, in the what was it called? Project for a New American Century, just a little bit, a few pages after they call for a new Pearl Harbor, they write, quote, "Advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool." Their project for a new world century is off to the races, man.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you for bringing up that reference. We should bring it up every time it's mentioned. Yes, race-specific bioweapons, politically useful tools, as the Project for a New American Century. And who was actually working on that in the 80s? Oh, yeah, South Africa. And under the tutelage of whom? Oh, that's right, people like David Kelly and others in the UK version, ported down version of that particular realm of research. And who was interested in acquiring that from South Africa? Oh, that's right, Israel. So there you go. There's kind of the circularity on that. And then, yes, this information could be used by Nazis, who, of course, were very interested and very salivating over the prospect of genetic databases. Yay, eugenics. But who else was interested in eugenics? Oh, how about the originators of eugenics, i.e. the British gentleman scientist class there in the late 19th century, and then, of course, transported over to the U.S. and funded into existence by wealthy American billionaire benefactors like the Rockefellers, etc. And, yeah, they were the ones who were funding the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes in Germany. So anyway, that's an interesting circularity. And then, yeah, you would think Yeah, of course, this could be used by Nazis or other eugenics-obsessed crazies out there. Yes, it certainly could. But wouldn't you think that the people who supposedly, you would, at least they tell us, they're very concerned about, the prospect of being cattle tagged and marked and databased in these IBM Hollerith machines, etc. Well, shouldn't you be concerned then about the very existence of genetic databases at all? Why is this security breach the first time that it is crossing your mind that maybe we don't want to be submitting our genetics to some company to have that information out there to be used willy-nilly by eugenicists of various stripes, including Nazis, right? There's so much circularity to this story, it almost hurts. But I think it just goes to show. Anyway, I would assume most of our audience are not sending their genetics into some company to get them tested. 23andMe, who founded that, and who's she the sister of, and how does that work, or the wife of who again? Yeah, once you start looking into it, it's crazier and crazier, and I should probably do a deep dive on this story in particular. But yeah, anyway, wake-up call for any normie who stumbled into this podcast somehow. Yeah, don't send your genetics off to some company to, don't worry, they'll keep it safe for me. No, it can and will be used against you.
And they don't even need a court of so-called law to be having it used against you. NewWorldNextWeek.com has all the ways you can support both of our works. T-shirts, hats. I told you the USB bundles would be sold out soon. I told you my music compilations are the best radio you've maybe ever heard in your life. And I've told you that the audio of these New World Next Week episodes premiere after my Thursday morning shows. And I'll tell you, I double-checked. October 11th. This is the 14th anniversary of New World Next Week. Betty, look, we dressed up and wore ties and all special for it. 14 years to the day of doing New World Next Week. James, what was the first story we ever covered on the first episode of New World Next Week? Did you look ahead in the notes?
No, I didn't, but did it involve Ahmadinejad?
And very good.
Yeah, his DNA or whatever, right? Yeah. His ancestry, right? Jewish ancestry, which then we updated in the next week. There was an update to that story. Yeah, I do remember.
Our very first story we ever covered was from the Jerusalem Post. Ahmadinejad was born a Jew. So this is the rich tapestry I think we've been laying out for people for now 14 years. I will include a link to the post of the pilot episode, which of course just has the YouTube embed that says this channel's been canceled. We've been doing our best to expose the false dichotomies and strategies of tension for 14 years in at least 532 episodes. And to the lady that keeps griping about my hair and my wild movements and not being able to share the video with her wokester friends, I am proud to announce we have made an audio version available for the last 14 years. As Morrissey says, if you don't like me, you don't have to look at me. If I showed up in a suit next week, suit and tie, did the perfect robot delivery, they'd be like, shoot, who's this guy trying to fool? The proof is in the 18 years of my pudding. And I have to tell people this a lot of times. I'm a radio guy. I'm a lifelong radio host and DJ and sound designer. Cassie the other day said, you're more kind of like a stand-up news poet. I like that. And I don't make videos for Blitverts and whatever new platform everybody's chasing everything around. Media Monarchy really is an acquired taste that isn't spoon-fed to you. And I challenge folks out there to come take the Media Monarchy challenge and come check us out and check out the stream.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you did show up in a suit and nicely combed hair and everything every week? That would be ridiculous. But yeah, let's make the other caveat that we can also say to people, there's the audio version. If you don't want to see our ugly mugs, that's fine. But how about just the links? As every single week, link after link after link, dozens and dozens of links. You could spend all your time reading through those, and often there's nuggets in there that you can send to your normie friends who don't want to look at our scary faces, right? So anyway, that's a public service we do for you as well. You're welcome.
We spend more time clarifying, codifying, making good, cogent links that people can share, backing them up using archives so the links don't disappear. We spend more time doing that than we do in, the 24 minutes we just now taped on this episode, James. I think that is the more important thing. I know I'm pretty cute. Maybe I don't want to let everybody see me. Maybe you don't deserve to get to look at my cute face every week. James, that's all I got, buddy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for 14 years of week after week after week of these types of stories. I am looking to 14 more, or 140 more. Who knows? We'll get the biological technocratic upgrades and live forever. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it next week and every week thereafter. James, thank you for these stories. I hope people check out MediaMonarchy.com for the exclusive audio of this before it's posted to any video platform. And on that note, see you next week.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Report. CorbettReport.com. You're listening to Corbett Report. CorbettReport.com. You're listening to the Corbett Report. CorbettReport.com.